Let's get back to KC, Fitz. We had a good time in Kansas City, a little Black Friday football. Kansas City Chiefs ended up on top, 19-17. I don't know how impressed we walked away with the game, but Fitz, the ending of that game, I was really confused. I know this. We were standing on the sideline. I heard a whistle. I thought that meant stop the play. Then you explained to me in those situations, sometimes it's different.
So I think there's two different things we want to talk about here. One is the referee's involvement in it. We were confused on if there was a whistle or not. They kind of let the play out. Obviously, it was a fumble, and the Chiefs recovered it. But we were taught when we were kids, what do you do when you hear the whistle?
Stop on the whistle, baby.
Right? That's you play to the whistle, then you stop. So
well, as an offensive lineman, Fitz, I was taught to play through the whistle.
Oh, through the whistle.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So I didn't like that one because there was a whistle, we thought, on the field. And so that whole, conference and deciding, that they were going to go ahead and let it go, whatever. I didn't love that. But the part I want to talk about, which I think was just crazy, is the Raiders' involvement in this, aside from the officials, of what happened there. So they spiked the ball on, I think it was 2nd and 6. And this happens sometimes in practice. And I think this is what happened to them there. They were so satisfied with executing the spike and the play that had happened before.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Aiden O'Connell sees the play clock going down to 15 seconds. 15 seconds is the magic number where they can no longer communicate in your headset. And so you see it get to 15. You see panic on his face, 14-13. He decides just to call 4 verticals, which is actually really smart. He was going to take the snap and throw it out of bounds because they didn't really need yardage, and they certainly couldn't waste catching something in bounds because the game would have been over. And they're in a rush. So he's clapping, telling everybody to hurry up to get to the ball. Well, I love that the center came out and said, look, it was my bad. It can't happen. But he couldn't have done anything. He hustles to the ball, and the right guard taps his butt. Like, what does it mean when you get your butt tapped as a center? It means I'm snapping the damn ball. So there was nothing he could really do. He didn't know what else was going on in the situation. The right guard and Aiden O'Connell could have done a better job of communicating what he wanted done, but the receivers weren't set, which ends up what the penalty was. Aiden O'Connell's looking out. He gets hit with the ball. But this was an error with the coaching staff of the Raiders for sure. And it's not really being talked about because we want to talk about the refs and how they love the Chiefs and they're all for the Chiefs. But there was a lot of different blame to be passed around during the end of that football game.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And again, the Chiefs pull out one of these wins that we've continued to see all year, Fitz. I mean, you look at it, I think of the season, it started with Likely's toenail basically being out of bounds. Yeah. Well, the Ravens get a win on Sunday Night Football possibly. I mean, the questionable penalty on our Cincinnati Bengals, we know how that one ended. You think about the Bucs with their opportunity to go for 2, the blocked field goal against the Broncos, making a field goal as time expires for the Panthers, and now this. I mean, yes, they have a great record, but I'm not sure where I'm at right now with, is this last year when we're criticizing like, oh man, they don't look as good as we expect them to look, or are they not that good this year, but they're just good enough to win right now?
You better be careful because Chiefs fans will come after you. They've been coming after me on Twitter because I basically said that. I mean, walking off that field after the win and even during the game, we could feel it. There's some bad vibes on that sideline. There are some bad vibes within that team right now. And those things are hard to get rid of. I mean, there's an ominous feeling, even though this team is now 11-1. And I just think this team is different. And the biggest reason why is their defense is not nearly as dominant as they were last year. And I don't think they're just going to be able to flip the switch. I think losing Watson made them even more thin on the back end. They have missed L'Jarius Sneed this year, but they've been really bad on 3rd down and getting off the field the last 5 weeks. They're having a hard time getting to the passer when they just rush 4. So everybody thinks just like last year, they're going to flip this magical switch. And maybe they're that good and they will, but I just think they're going to run into some problems with some of these dynamic offenses in the AFC, and they're going to fall behind in a game. And when you fall behind in the game, you got to pass a little bit more and not lean on the run. What do you think about their tackle play, Whit? Do you think their tackles are going to be able to hold up when they have to do that?
Well, they need DJ Humphries to be healthy, and that's a big question. I mean, the guy tore his ACL just a year ago. I think that's a huge factor for them because at least the kind of player he is and has been, if he can get back to that form, that'll be a big part for them. I think they won't have to help so much on that side, and they can help on the other with Juwan Taylor. But also, man, here's the other thing is I will say this. Last year, they only averaged just over 19 points in the last 6 games of the season. And we were questioning, like, was this offense going to be good enough to win in the playoffs? And then out of nowhere, what do? All 4 games in the playoffs, they average almost 25 points a game, and they go win a Super Bowl. So we have seen them. Like I always used to say in high school, you never believe your high school coach when you used to say, hey, guys, you can't just flip a switch. Bullshit, because I've watched a lot of great players flip switches for a long time.
Yeah.
And Mahomes is one of those guys that it feels like he gets a little bored in the regular season, but when he is ready to go and it's for everything, he flips the switch. Him and Kelsey get their relationship rolling, and they win games. And so I'm questioning this year because I do think this defense isn't as good, just like you said. But I don't know. There's some tough teams in the AFC this year. Now, I think there's Ravens teams, I've said, this Buffalo Bills team, they get a lead on them. They're good enough, both those teams, to come away with a win. But right now, as it stands, they're going to have to go do that in Kansas City, which always plays in the Chiefs' favor because that is a pretty special place to play.
It is. And I'm looking forward to the Chiefs-Chargers game to see what goes on there this weekend. But another funny thing about Black Friday that was great, and I'm really mad at you, I'm mad at you for a lot of reasons. But
I didn't even do nothing.
We get a text at halftime from Jason Kelsey, our buddy.
Okay, I know this one.
And he was just excited about the Beanie Bros. We were both wearing beanies,
Bros.
And I was excited about mine. It said Black Friday football. You were looking good in yours. But I'm furious because why wouldn't you tell me how dumb I looked with that stupid ball on the top of my beanie? Like, I looked so
great.
dumb. No, I saw the picture and I was like, Kelsey's just making fun of me. Like, this thing looks ridiculous.
That was great. My favorite part was you ripping the ball off as soon as we got in for halftime.
Right when I saw the photo.
You saw the photo. You're like, this ball's gone. I'm out on wearing the ball on top of my head. You know what? Honestly, I didn't think anything about it until he sent the photo. And I really, 2 things I noticed were, one, you look ridiculous with that ball on top of your head. The second thing I noticed that I kind of wanted to ask you about, do you notice in his picture, I'm not sure if this is from his house, we got a lot of wires hanging here, Fitz.
Oh, my God. That was the second thing I noticed.
I wanted to ask him, but we were in the middle of the show, and I was like, I wanted to ask, hey, bro, do we have a little TV audio? Like, do you have some pride about the setup here? Because I'm confused. The cord's hanging underneath the TV.
And there was a lot of them. It wasn't just like the power cord. It's like the Sonos cords. And let's assume that that's maybe not his setup and he was somewhere else watching the game. Either way, like, you can't have that setup, Jason. You can't have a family member have that setup. You've got a 9-figure podcast and you had a very good NFL career. You shouldn't be the one that's setting up your TV or setting up your Sonos and leaving the wires hanging in between them so you can see them. Not a good look. Much like my beanie, not a good look.